The fork was halfway to his lips when I saw it. That faint shimmer on the pasta, the smell that didn't belong. My heart stopped. This was Lorenzo Salvatore, the man who'd killed more people than I'd cooked meals. And someone had just poisoned his food. I should have stayed quiet. Should have let fate handle it. But my legs moved before my brain could stop them, and I heard myself scream words that would destroy my life. Don't eat that. I slapped the fork from the most dangerous man in the city's hand. And as his cold eyes locked onto mine, as his guards reached for their guns, I realized I'd just made the worst mistake of my life. My name is Aria Bennett, and this is the story of how saving a monster's life turned me into his prey. Before we start, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so we can meet again in the next story. Now let's get into it. Chapter 1. The fork was halfway to his lips when I saw it. I froze in the kitchen doorway, my heart slamming against my ribs so hard I thought everyone could hear it. The dining room glowed with soft candlelight, and there he sat at the head of the table like a king surveying his empire. Lorenzo Salvatore, the man whose name people whispered in fear. The man whose orders ended lives before breakfast. And someone had just tried to kill him. I'd been working at Carmina's for 6 months, hiding in the kitchen where no one noticed me. That's how I liked it. Invisible. The shy girl who could create magic with food, but couldn't look customers in the eye. My hands shook when I had to speak to anyone, and my therapist said I had severe social anxiety. The kitchen was my safe place. My only place. But tonight, Chef Marco had sent me to observe the final presentation. Learn from the masters, he'd said, shoving me toward the dining room. I'd pressed myself against the wall, trying to disappear into the shadows, watching as our head chef placed the signature lobster risotto in front of Lorenzo Salvatore. That's when I smelled it. Bitter almonds. Faint, almost undetectable beneath the truffle oil and saffron. My grandfather had been a chef too, and he'd trained my nose since I was 5 years old. A chef's nose can save lives, he'd always said. I thought he meant preventing food poisoning. I never imagined this. The fork lifted. Lorenzo's face was carved from stone, handsome in a terrifying way. Dark eyes that had watched men beg for mercy. Lips that had ordered executions. And now those lips were about to close around poisoned food. Move, Aria. Move. But I couldn't. Fear paralyzed me like always. My feet were cement blocks. My voice stuck in my throat like a stone. Lorenzo's fork rose higher, the risotto glistening in the candlelight. Someone in this restaurant wanted him dead. Someone had slipped poison into our kitchen, into our food, into everything I'd built my life around. And if he died, if Lorenzo Salvatore died from food prepared in our kitchen, everyone here would die too. I knew how the Mafia worked. Everyone knew. The fork touched his lips. Something snapped inside me. Don't eat that. The scream tore from my throat as my legs finally moved. I ran forward, my chef's clogs slapping against marble, and I did the most insane thing I'd ever done in my 24 years of life. I slapped the fork right out of Lorenzo Salvatore's hand. It clattered to the floor. Risotto splattered across his expensive suit. The entire room went silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me. 20 men in tailored suits, all reaching inside their jackets. And Lorenzo just stared at me with those dead, dark eyes, his jaw tight, his hand frozen in midair where I'd struck it. It's poisoned, I gasped, my voice shaking so badly I could barely form words. The food, it's poisoned, I can smell it, bitter almonds, that cyanide. I didn't make it, but I smelled it, and I couldn't let you, I couldn't. Grab her. His voice was quiet. Calm. Terrifying. 2 massive hands clamped onto my shoulders before I could run. I tried to scream, but someone's palm covered my mouth. They lifted me off my feet like I weighed nothing, and I saw Chef Marco's face in the kitchen doorway, pale and horrified. Other staff members peeked out, their eyes wide. Please, I sobbed against the hand covering my mouth. Please test it, test the food, I didn't poison it, I swear, I just smelled it, please. Lorenzo stood slowly. He was tall, over 6 feet of controlled violence. He picked up the plate, brought it close to his face, and inhaled. His expression never changed. Marco, he called out. Who prepared this dish? Chef Marco stumbled forward, his round face sweating. I did, Senior Salvatore, with my own hands. I would never, I swear on my mother's grave. Test it, Lorenzo said to one of his men. Now, a thin man in glasses appeared from somewhere, pulling out what looked like a medical kit. He scraped some risotto into a vial, added drops of clear liquid. We all watched in silence as the mixture turned bright blue. Cyanide, the thin man confirmed. Enough to kill him in minutes. The room erupted. Guns came out everywhere. Chef Marco fell to his knees, screaming his innocence. Other staff members were dragged out of the kitchen. And Lorenzo's eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, settled back on me. "Put her in the car," he said quietly. "No." I thrashed against the arms holding me. "I saved you. I stopped you from eating it. Why are you doing this?" Lorenzo walked toward me slowly, each step deliberate. He stopped so close I could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. When he spoke, his voice was soft as silk and sharp as a blade. "Someone poisoned my food, little chef. Someone in this kitchen. And you're the only one who knew exactly what to look for and exactly when to stop me." He tilted his head. "That makes you either my savior or my killer. And I'm going to find out which." He nodded to his men. They dragged me toward the exit as I screamed and fought. I caught one last glimpse of the dining room, of the spilled food and the chaos and Chef Marco weeping on the floor. The last thing I heard before they threw me into the back of a black SUV was Lorenzo's voice, cold and final. "Take her to the estate. No one touches her until I arrive. I want to handle this one personally." The door slammed shut. The car started moving. And I curled into a ball on the leather seat, my whole body shaking, realizing that my life as I knew it was over. I'd saved a monster. And now I belonged to him. Chapter 2. I'd never seen a mansion like this outside of movies. High stone walls. Armed guards every 20 feet. Iron gates that clanged shut behind us like a prison sentence. They dragged me through marble hallways, past oil paintings that probably cost more than my entire life, and threw me into a room that looked like a bedroom but felt like a cell. Heavy curtains. Locked windows. A 4-poster bed that might as well have been a torture rack. "Someone will come for you soon," one guard said. Then they left, and I heard the lock click. I ran to the door and pulled until my hands hurt. Nothing. I ran to the windows and yanked at them until my arms ached. Nothing. I was trapped in a gilded cage, waiting for a monster to decide if I lived or died. The shaking started in my hands and spread through my whole body. An anxiety attack. I slid down the wall, wrapped my arms around my knees, and tried to remember the breathing exercises my therapist taught me. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. It wasn't working. They were going to kill me. They thought I poisoned their boss. No one would believe a shy chef with shaky hands over a mafia empire. My parents were dead. I had no siblings. No one would even look for me. I don't know how long I sat there before the door opened. A man walked in, and everything about him screamed violence. Broad shoulders. Scarred knuckles. A face that had seen and done terrible things. He pulled up a chair, turned it backward, and sat down, his arms resting on the back. "My name is Marco," he said. "Different Marco from the chef. I'm Senior Salvatore's underboss. I handle problems. And right now, you're a very big problem." "I didn't poison anything," I whispered. "I swear, I just smelled it and—" "Save it." His voice was flat. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me who hired you, who helped you, and how you got the poison into our kitchen. You can tell me now, nice and easy. Or you can tell me later, after I've convinced you." The way he said convinced made my blood turn to ice. "I'm just a chef," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I work in the kitchen. I don't know anything about poison or mafia or any of this. I just have a good sense of smell. My grandfather trained me, and I smelled bitter almonds, which means cyanide, and I couldn't let someone die, even if he's..." "Even if he's what?" Marco leaned forward. "Even if he's a killer? A criminal? Someone who deserves to die. Even if he's any of that," I sobbed. I couldn't just watch someone eat poison. I couldn't. Marco studied me for a long moment. Then he stood up, and my heart nearly stopped. "You're either the best liar I've ever met," he said quietly, "or the dumbest person alive. Either way, you're not leaving this room until we know for sure." He walked to the door, then paused. "Senior Salvatore will be here soon. I suggest you think very carefully about what you're going to say to him. He's not as patient as I am." The door closed. The lock clicked, and I was alone again with my terror. Hours passed. No food. No water. No one came. My mouth felt like sand, and my stomach cramped with hunger. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. Every footstep could be death walking toward me. When the door finally opened again, I almost cried with relief. Then I saw who it was, and relief turned to confusion. Dante. Dante Salvatore stepped into the room, and he looked nothing like the cold, dangerous men who'd brought me here. He was younger than Lorenzo, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He'd been coming to Carmina's for months, always sitting at the small table in the corner, always ordering my desserts specifically. He'd been so sweet, so normal, that I'd actually managed to talk to him a few times without my anxiety crushing me. "Aria," he breathed, rushing forward. "Oh God, I heard what happened. I came as soon as I could." He pulled me into a hug, and I collapsed against him, sobbing into his expensive shirt. "They think I did it," I gasped. "They think I poisoned him, but I didn't, Dante, I swear. I just smelled it and I couldn't." "Sure, I know. He stroked my hair gently. "I told Lorenzo you'd never do something like that. I vouched for you. You're safe now." "Safe?" I pulled back, staring at him. "They locked me in here. They threatened me." "That's just procedure," Dante said softly. "My brother is careful. He has to be. But I convinced him to let me talk to you first, to verify what kind of person you are." He smiled, and it was so warm, so genuine. "I told him you're the kindest person I've ever met. That you probably saved his life because that's just who you are." Hope bloomed in my chest like a flower breaking through concrete. "He believed you?" "He's considering it," Dante said. "Give him time. Lorenzo doesn't trust easily, but he listens to me. You're going to be okay, Aria. I promise." I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. Dante had always been nice to me. Normal. Safe. In a world of monsters, he'd seemed like the only human. "Thank you," I whispered. "I don't know what I would have done if." "Don't think about it." He squeezed my hand. "Just rest. I'll bring you some food and water. And I'll keep working on Lorenzo. You'll be out of here soon." He left, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like maybe I could survive this. 2 hours later, I was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, when I heard voices in the hallway. The walls were thick, but there was a heating vent near the floor, and sound traveled through it. Dante's voice. Low and angry. I slid off the bed and pressed my ear to the vent. Failed. She ruined everything. Silence. He was on the phone. "Yes, I poisoned it myself." The timing was perfect. If she hadn't interfered. Frustration in his voice now. "No, she doesn't know I'm the one who wants Lorenzo dead. She thinks I'm helping her." My blood turned to ice. "We'll try again. Soon. And this time, I'll make sure that little chef isn't around to play hero." Footsteps. Walking away. I sat frozen on the floor, my entire world shattering around me. Dante. Kind, sweet Dante who'd smiled at me and ordered my desserts and made me feel like maybe I could trust someone. Dante had poisoned his own brother. Dante had tried to kill Lorenzo and frame me for it. And I just thanked him for saving my life. I stumbled to the door, pounding on it with my fists. "Help! Someone! Please! I need to talk to Lorenzo. I know who did it. Please!" The door opened. Marco stood there, his face hard. "Quiet down or I'll..." It was Dante. I screamed. "Dante poisoned the food. I just heard him on the phone. He's trying to kill Lorenzo. Please, you have to believe me." Marco's expression didn't change. "You expect me to believe that Senior Dante, who just vouched for you, is actually the traitor?" I heard him. "The vent, the sound carries, please, just listen to me." "Enough." Marco grabbed my arm. "This is exactly what a guilty person would do. Blame someone else. Try to turn us against each other." No, please." I fought against his grip, but he was too strong. "Check his phone. Check the kitchen. He was there earlier, he must have." "Lock her down," Marco told the guards. "No more visits. No more talking. Senior Salvatore will deal with her himself when he arrives." They threw me back in the room. This time, they took the furniture except for the bed. No chairs to break. No lamps to use as weapons. Just me and 4 walls and the crushing knowledge that the truth didn't matter. No one would believe the terrified chef over the boss's beloved brother. I curled up on the bed and cried until I had no tears left. And I realized that sometimes the people who smile the brightest are just better at hiding their monsters. Chapter 3. They came for me at dawn. I hadn't slept. Every sound in the hallway had been a countdown to my death. Every footstep, every voice, every breath was bringing me closer to the end. When the door opened, Lorenzo stood there himself this time. Still in a dark suit, not a hair out of place, looking like death wrapped in expensive fabric. "Get up," he said quietly. My legs shook as I stood. 2 guards flanked him, their hands on their guns. "Please," I whispered. "Just listen to me for 1 minute." It was Dante. I heard him on the phone. "He's the one who..." "I know what you told Marco. Lorenzo interrupted. His voice was ice. Very clever. Accuse my brother, the one person who defended you. Create chaos and confusion. Classic tactic. I'm not lying. My voice cracked. Why would I lie? What would I gain? Time, Lorenzo said simply. Every accusation buys you a few more hours of life while we investigate. Every lie is another sunset you get to see. But I'm done with your games. He nodded to the guards. They grabbed my arms, and this time I didn't even bother fighting. What was the point? They dragged me through the mansion, outside into the cold morning air. The estate stretched out behind the house, acres of perfect green lawn. And at the edge of that lawn I saw it. A wooden post driven into the ground. Dark stains in the grass around it. Other people had died here. Now it was my turn. My legs gave out. The guards had to carry me the last 100 feet. They tied my hands behind the post, tied my ankles, left me standing there like a sacrifice. Any last words? Lorenzo stood in front of me, his expression blank. I couldn't speak. Terror had stolen my voice. I was 24 years old, and I was going to die because I'd saved someone's life. The cruelty of it broke something inside me. I hope he succeeds, I finally whispered. I hope Dante kills you. I hope you die afraid and alone like you're making me die. I hope. Bring him out, Lorenzo called. 2 guards dragged someone else across the lawn. My vision was blurry with tears, but as they got closer, I saw who it was. Dante. They tied him to another post, right next to mine. He was crying, pleading, his perfect face twisted in terror. Lorenzo, please, brother. Whatever she said, it's lies. I would never. Shut up. Lorenzo's voice cut through the morning like a blade. He walked over to a small table I hadn't noticed. On it sat a laptop. He opened it, pressed a few keys, and turned it so we could both see the screen. Security footage. The kitchen at Carmina's. Timestamp showing 2 hours before service. And there was Dante, slipping into the empty kitchen, pulling a small vial from his pocket, sprinkling something over the risotto ingredients. I had cameras installed in that kitchen 6 months ago, Lorenzo said quietly. I don't trust anyone. Not even family. He looked at Dante, and for the first time, I saw emotion in his eyes. Pain. Especially not family. It's not what it looks like. Dante screamed. I can explain. Can you explain this? Lorenzo pulled out a phone. Press play. Dante's voice filled the morning air. The plan failed. She ruined everything. Yes, I poisoned it myself. Every word I'd heard through the vent. Lorenzo had recorded it. Or this. Another recording. Dante talking to someone about how their father had left everything to Lorenzo. How it should have been his. How he'd been planning this for months. Dante stopped crying. His face went blank. Then he started laughing, high and wild. You never deserved it, he screamed at Lorenzo. Papa's empire should have been mine. I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm not a mindless killer like you. But no, the monster gets everything, and I get scraps. So you tried to kill me and frame an innocent woman, Lorenzo said softly. You would have let her die for your ambition. She's no one. Dante spat. A nobody chef with anxiety issues. What's one worthless life compared to taking back what's mine? Lorenzo walked toward him slowly. You're right. You are smarter than me. But you forgot one thing. He leaned close to Dante's ear. I'm the monster, and monsters protect what's theirs. He turned to his guards. Untie the girl. Bring me a knife. They cut my ropes. I collapsed to the ground, gasping. One guard handed Lorenzo a blade. Watch, Lorenzo commanded me. See what happens to people who try to hurt what I've claimed as mine. What you've claimed. I stared at him. I'm not yours, I'm not anyone's, You saved my life, Lorenzo said, his eyes still on Dante. That creates a bond. A debt. And I always pay my debts. He grabbed Dante by the throat. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Did you think I was that blind? Lorenzo, please. Dante's bravado crumbled. I'm your brother. Your blood. You can't. You stopped being my brother the moment you tried to murder me. The knife flashed. I turned away, but I heard Dante's scream. Heard the wet sounds. Heard the moment the screaming stopped. I vomited into the grass, my whole body shaking. When I looked up, Dante was dead, and Lorenzo was walking toward me. His white shirt was covered in blood. I should have run. Should have been terrified. But when he crouched down in front of me, when I saw the pain in his eyes beneath the ice, I saw something I didn't expect. Humanity. You tried to warn them, he said quietly. You told Marco the truth, and no one believed you. They thought I was lying, I whispered. I know. He reached out, and I flinched, but he just gently wiped dirt from my cheek. I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner. I'm sorry you had to see that. You killed your own brother. I killed a traitor who would have let you die. His dark eyes held mine. You saved my life, Aria Bennett. Now I've saved yours. We're even. He stood up and offered me his hand. I stared at it, at the blood on his fingers, at the choice he was giving me. Take his hand and enter his world. Refuse it and face whatever came next alone. I thought about dying tied to that post. About Dante calling me worthless. About how no one had believed me until it was almost too late. I took his hand. He pulled me to my feet, and in that moment, everything changed. You're under my protection now, Lorenzo said. Dante had allies. They'll want revenge. The only way you survive is if you stay with me. Stay with you. My voice shook. You mean like a prisoner? I mean like someone I owe a debt to. He turned toward the mansion, still holding my hand. Come. We need to get you cleaned up and fed. Then we'll talk about what happens next. As we walked away from Dante's body, as guards moved in to handle the aftermath, I realized something terrifying. I'd jumped from one nightmare into another. But this time, the monster wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to keep me alive. And I didn't know which was worse. Chapter 4. I woke up in silk sheets that cost more than a month of my rent. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all crashed back. The poison. Dante. The execution. Lorenzo's blood-covered hand pulling me to my feet. I sat up fast, my heart racing, and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through my shoulder where I'd slept on it wrong. My whole body ached like I'd been hit by a truck. A knock on the door made me jump. Come in, I called, my voice rough. A woman in her 50s entered, carrying a tray of food. Her face was kind but professional. Senior Salvatore asked me to bring you breakfast. I'm Maria, the housekeeper. The smell hit me first. Fresh bread. Coffee. Eggs cooked perfectly. My stomach growled so loud Maria actually smiled. Eat, she said, setting the tray on my lap. You'll need your strength. For what? I asked, but she was already leaving. I ate like I'd never seen food before. Everything was perfect, restaurant quality. When I finished, I found clothes laid out in the bathroom. Designer labels I couldn't even pronounce. They fit perfectly. How did Lorenzo know my size? The thought made my skin crawl, and my face flush at the same time. Another knock. This time, Marco the underboss stood in the doorway. Senior Salvatore wants to see you. Now. I followed him through the mansion, my new shoes clicking on marble floors. We passed men in suits who all stopped to stare at me. Some looks were curious. Some were hostile. All made my anxiety spike. Marco led me to an office that looked like it belonged in a castle. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A desk that could fit 6 people. And Lorenzo, standing by the window, looking out at his estate. He'd changed into a fresh suit. No trace of his brother's blood remained. Sit, he said without turning around. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk. Marco left, closing the door behind him. We were alone. How do you feel? Lorenzo asked. Like I'm living in a nightmare, I said honestly. My anxiety made my filter disappear sometimes. He turned to face me, and I saw something like amusement flicker in his eyes. Honest. I like that. He moved to sit behind his desk. Let me be honest with you too. You're in danger. Because of what happened with Dante. Because of what happened with Dante, he confirmed. He had supporters. Men who believed he should lead the family. Now that he's dead, they blame you. Me. My voice pitched higher. You're the one who killed him. Yes. But you're the one who exposed him. You're the one who saved my life. Lorenzo leaned back in his chair. To them, if you just kept quiet, Dante would have succeeded. They see you as the real threat. My hand started shaking. I gripped the armrests to hide it. So what happens now? You kill me to make them happy? No. His answer was firm. I protect you. You stay here, under my roof, under my guard. Anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through me first. You mean I'm a prisoner? I mean you're alive. His eyes hardened. Would you prefer I let you leave? See how long you last on your own against trained killers. I swallowed hard. He was right, and I hated him for it. How long? I asked. How long do I have to stay here? Until the threat is neutralized. He opened a drawer and pulled out papers. In the meantime, you'll work for me. You're a chef. I need a personal chef. Someone I can trust not to poison my food. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't my life. You want me to cook for you. Every meal. Every day. You'll have access to my private kitchen, my ingredients, anything you need. He slid a paper across the desk. This is your contract. Room, board, and a salary that I think you'll find generous. I looked at the number, and my eyes widened. It was more than I made in a year at Carmina's. And if I refuse? Then you're free to go. He gestured to the door. Walk out right now. Take your chances. I won't stop you. It was a test. We both knew it. I picked up the pen and signed my name. Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Satisfaction? Relief? Smart choice, he said. Maria will show you to the kitchen. Dinner is at 8. I expect something that reminds me why I'm keeping you alive. It was a dismissal. I stood, turned to leave, then stopped. Why? I asked. Why what? Why go to all this trouble? You could just lock me in a room, keep me safe that way. Why give me freedom of the kitchen? Why pay me? Lorenzo stood and walked around the desk. He stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Because you didn't hesitate, he said quietly. When you saw the poison, you didn't think about consequences. You didn't think about who I was or what I've done. You just acted. That kind of instinct is rare. His gaze held mine. And I protect rare things. My breath caught. For a moment, I saw past the cold exterior to something deeper. Something lonely. Then he stepped back, and the moment shattered. 8 o'clock, Aria. Don't be late. The next few weeks fell into a strange rhythm. I cooked 3 meals a day for Lorenzo in a kitchen that was a chef's dream. Everything I could ever want was available with a single request. The finest ingredients from around the world. Equipment I'd only seen in magazines. And Lorenzo ate everything I made. He never complained, never sent anything back. Sometimes he'd ask how I prepared something. Once, he almost smiled when I served him a dessert that reminded him of his mother's cooking. We didn't talk much beyond that. But every meal was a conversation of its own. I started to notice things. How he always left the corner pieces of lasagna for last, because they were his favorite. How he hated mushrooms but never told me, just pushed them aside. How he drank exactly 2 espressos every morning and 1 whiskey every night. I started to cook for those preferences without being asked. And he noticed. You pay attention, he said one evening, studying the mushroom-free risotto I'd served. It's my job. No, it's who you are. He took a bite, and I saw satisfaction in his expression. You care, even about someone like me. Before I could respond, the lights went out. Every light in the mansion died at once, plunging us into darkness. I heard shouting, gunshots outside, breaking glass. Lorenzo was out of his chair instantly, grabbing me. Get down. He shoved me under the table as more gunshots erupted. I heard men screaming. Heard things breaking. Heard footsteps running. Stay here, Lorenzo commanded. He pulled a gun from somewhere and moved toward the door. Wait. I grabbed his sleeve without thinking. Don't leave me. He looked down at me, and in the dim moonlight coming through the window, I saw something shift in his expression. I'll come back, he said. Then he was gone, disappearing into the chaos. I huddled under that table, every gunshot making me flinch. Minutes felt like hours. The shooting got closer, then farther, then stopped altogether. Silence. Worse than the noise. Then I smelled it. Smoke. I crawled out from under the table and saw orange light flickering in the hallway. Fire. The mansion was on fire. Lorenzo. I screamed, but smoke was already filling the room. I dropped low, covering my mouth with my sleeve, trying to remember which way led out. The kitchen. I knew the kitchen. There was a door to the garden. I crawled through smoke and heat, my lungs burning. Found the kitchen door, stumbled through it. The garden door was right there, just 20 feet away. Something exploded behind me. The force threw me forward. I hit the floor hard, my hands breaking my fall. Pain shot up my arms like lightning. When I looked down, I saw blisters already forming. I'd landed in burning oil that had spilled from the stove. I screamed and scrambled to the door, my hands on fire with pain. Made it outside and collapsed on the grass, gasping. Guards ran past me toward the fire. Someone shouted orders. Chaos everywhere. Aria! Lorenzo appeared out of the smoke like a demon, his suit torn, blood on his face. He dropped to his knees beside me and saw my hands. His expression transformed into pure rage. Get the medic, he roared. Now. I'm okay, I lied. My hands felt like they were still burning. You're not okay. He was so gentle as he examined my hands, so different from the cold killer I'd met. This is bad. 2nd-degree burns at least. The kitchen, I whispered. I was trying to get out and… You shouldn't have had to. His jaw was tight. This is my fault. They got through because I was distracted. Because I was worried about keeping you alive instead of doing my job. Did you get them? The people who attacked. Most of them. His eyes were dark. But this won't be the last time. Dante's supporters won't stop until they've avenged him, or until they're all dead. A medic arrived and started treating my hands. I bit my lip to keep from screaming as he cleaned the burns. Lorenzo held my shoulder, steady and solid. You're strong, he said quietly. Stronger than you know. Through the pain, I looked up at him. How do you know? Because you're still here. Still fighting. Most people would have broken by now. As the medic wrapped my hands in bandages, as Lorenzo's mansion burned behind us, I realized something that should have terrified me but didn't. I was starting to trust him. And that was the most dangerous thing I could do. Chapter 5. My hands healed slowly. For 3 weeks, I couldn't cook. Couldn't do much of anything except sit in my room and go slowly insane. Lorenzo hired another chef temporarily, but I could tell he didn't trust them the same way. He visited me every day. Sometimes just for a few minutes, checking on my progress. Sometimes he'd stay longer and we'd talk. I learned things about him that didn't fit the monster image. He'd wanted to be a doctor before his father forced him into the family business. He spoke 4 languages. He loved old movies, especially Italian cinema from the 70s. And slowly, impossibly, I learned that Lorenzo Salvatore was more than the sum of his crimes. Your hands look better, he said one afternoon, examining the healing skin. His touch was gentle, careful not to hurt me. The doctor says I can start cooking again next week. I flexed my fingers, testing. Still tender, but functional. Light work at first. Good. Lorenzo released my hand slowly. I've missed your cooking. Something warm spread through my chest at those words. Dangerous. So dangerous. The other chef isn't that bad, I teased. He's adequate. Lorenzo's eyes met mine. But he's not you. The moment stretched between us, heavy with something unspoken. Then his phone rang, shattering it. He answered, his expression darkening as he listened. When? Pause. How many? Another pause. Double the guards. No one leaves the estate. He hung up and stood. Stay in your room tonight. Lock the door. What's happening? The Russo family is making moves. They're Dante's biggest supporters. He moved toward the door. They know you're here. They know you're important to me. Important. The word came out too soft. He stopped, his back to me. You saved my life, Aria. That makes you valuable. That makes you a target. He looked over his shoulder. Lock the door. I'll have guards outside. He left before I could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. I kept checking the lock, making sure it held. Around 2 a.m., I finally drifted off. I woke to a hand over my mouth. My scream died in my throat. 3 men stood around my bed, dressed in black. One held a knife to my throat. Make a sound and you die, he whispered in accented English. They pulled me from the bed, zip-tied my hands behind my back. I tried to fight, but one of them hit me across the face. Stars exploded in my vision. They dragged me to the window. It was open, guards lying unconscious on the ground outside. They'd cut through Lorenzo's security like it was nothing. They threw me over one man's shoulder and ran. I watched the mansion disappear behind us, watched my safety vanish into darkness. I wanted to scream, but the knife was back at my throat. They threw me into a van. A bag went over my head, and we drove for what felt like hours. When they finally pulled me out, when they ripped the bag off, I was in a warehouse. Concrete floors. Rusted metal. The smell of old blood. A man sat in a chair in front of me. Older, maybe 60, with silver hair and dead eyes. Aria Bennett, he said. The little chef who destroyed everything. I didn't do anything, I whispered. You saved Lorenzo Salvatore's life. You exposed Dante. You took away our chance at changing the power structure in this city. He stood and walked toward me. Do you know how long we planned that? How much money we invested in turning Dante against his brother? You used him. We gave him an opportunity. He grabbed my face, his fingers digging into my cheeks. And you ruined it. Now Lorenzo is more powerful than ever. And you're his weakness. He let me go and nodded to his men. String her up. They threw a rope over a ceiling beam and tied it to my bound wrists. Then they pulled. My arms were yanked above my head, my toes barely touching the floor. Pain screamed through my shoulders. We sent Lorenzo a message, the man said. He has until dawn to surrender himself to us. If he does, we'll let you go. If he doesn't, he picked up a pair of pliers from a nearby table. We'll send you back to him piece by piece. The torture started immediately. They didn't touch my face. Everything else was fair game. They beat me until my ribs cracked, burned me with cigarettes, pressed the pliers to my fingers, threatening to break them one by one. Call him, they demanded, shoving a phone at my face. Beg him to save you. I spit blood at them. They hit me harder. Hours blurred together. Pain became my entire world. I drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes I woke screaming. Sometimes I woke to silence worse than the screaming. Last chance, the silver-haired man said. It might have been the next day. Or the same night. I couldn't tell anymore. Call Lorenzo. Beg. Or we start removing fingers. They held the phone to my ear. It rang. Lorenzo answered. Aria? His voice was raw. Aria, where are you? Don't come, I gasped through broken lips. It's a trap. They'll kill you. Don't. They ripped the phone away. The man laughed. Hear that, Salvatore? She's willing to die for you. How sweet. But we both know you're not willing to die for her. You're a survivor. Always have been. You have 2 hours. Lorenzo's voice came through the speaker, cold as death. 2 hours to let her go unharmed. After that, I'm coming for you. And I won't kill you quick. The man laughed and hung up. Stupid. He's actually coming. He looked at me. Guess you mean more to him than I thought. Shame. You'll both die today. He turned to his men. Prepare the explosives. When Salvatore gets here, we blow the whole building. Take out him and half his organization in one shot. They left me hanging there, my body screaming agony. I tried to work my hands free, but the zip ties were too tight. Blood ran down my arms from where they cut into my wrists. I was going to die here, and Lorenzo was walking into a death trap because of me. The thought made me cry for the first time since they'd taken me. Not for myself. For him. Gunfire erupted outside. Lots of gunfire. Explosions. Men screaming. The silver-haired man ran back in, his face pale. How did he find us so fast? More explosions. Closer. The warehouse doors blew inward. Smoke filled the space. And through it walked Lorenzo, covered in blood that wasn't his, a gun in each hand. He looked like death incarnate. Get down, someone screamed. Bullets flew everywhere. I couldn't duck, couldn't move, just hung there waiting to be hit. I saw the silver-haired man raise his gun toward Lorenzo. Time slowed. Lorenzo's gun came up. They fired simultaneously. The man dropped. Lorenzo spun, kept firing, kept moving. Bodies fell around him. His men poured in behind him, a wave of violence that swept through the warehouse. It was over in minutes. Lorenzo ran to me, holstering his weapons. I've got you. I've got you. He cut the rope. I collapsed into his arms, and he lowered us both to the floor. He cradled me like I was made of glass. Why? I whispered. You should have let me die. It's not worth it. I'm not worth it. Stop. His hand cupped my face, so gentle despite the violence still smoking around us. Don't ever say that. They were going to blow up the building. Kill you. This was all a trap, and you walked right into it because of me. I walked into it for you. His dark eyes held mine. Do you understand? I would burn this entire city down before I let them hurt you. But why? Tears streamed down my face. I'm nobody. I'm just a chef who happened to save you that one time. Why does my life matter so much to you? Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Because you saved me once before. I stared at him through my tears. What? 12 years ago. I was building my empire, making enemies, getting into fights I shouldn't have won. His voice was rough. I broke up a trafficking ring. Saved 15 people from being sold. Most were adults. But there was one girl. 16 years old. Terrified. I got her to safety, made sure she had money, a new identity if she wanted it. My breath stopped. She had your eyes, Lorenzo continued. Your kindness even through the fear. I checked on her for years after. Made sure she was okay. Watched her become a chef, find her passion. His thumb brushed away my tears. Watched her survive. That was you. The memory came flooding back. Hazy from trauma and drugs they'd given me, but there. A man with dark eyes pulling me from a nightmare. Telling me I was safe. Giving me a chance at life. I never forgot you, Aria. When you walked into my dining room that night, when you saved my life, I knew immediately who you were. His voice cracked. The girl I saved 12 years ago grew up and saved me back. How could I not protect you? How could I let anything happen to you? I couldn't speak. Couldn't process this. We need to get her to a doctor, one of his men said. Lorenzo stood, lifting me like I weighed nothing. My jet is waiting. We're going to a private hospital. The best doctors. Whatever she needs. As he carried me out of that warehouse, past the bodies and the blood, I understood something profound. This wasn't just about a debt anymore. This was about two broken people who'd saved each other across a dozen years. And I was falling for him. God help me. I was falling for a monster who'd shown me the only real kindness I'd ever known. Chapter 6. I spent 3 weeks in a private hospital. Lorenzo never left. He slept in a chair by my bed, showered in the attached bathroom, worked from a laptop perched on his knees. When I woke screaming from nightmares, he was there. When the pain got too bad, he held my hand until the medicine kicked in. You should go home, I told him one afternoon. Run your empire. I'll be fine. My empire can wait. He didn't look up from his laptop. You can't. Lorenzo. I waited until he met my eyes. Thank you. For everything. For saving me twice now. But you don't owe me anything else. You've paid whatever debt you think existed. This isn't about debt anymore. His gaze was intense. Is it? My heart stuttered. What is it about then? He closed his laptop and leaned forward. You tell me, Aria. Why does my chest hurt when you're in pain? Why do I want to kill anyone who looks at you wrong? Why did I walk into an obvious trap without hesitation? I don't know, I whispered. Yes, you do. He took my hand carefully, mindful of my healing burns. You're smart. You see people clearly. So tell me what this is. I looked at our joined hands. His were scarred, stained with violence. Mine were marked by burns from saving them both. We were a disaster waiting to happen. It's dangerous, I finally said. Everything about my life is dangerous. It's wrong. You're a criminal. I'm supposed to be afraid of you. Are you? His thumb traced circles on my palm. Afraid of me? I should have said yes. Should have lied. But I'd never been good at lying. No, I admitted. Not anymore. And that terrifies me more than anything. Lorenzo smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his entire face. Good. Because I'm terrified too. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His lips brushed mine, gentle as a whisper, and something inside me that had been frozen for 12 years finally thawed. The kiss deepened. His hand cupped my face. I forgot about my injuries, forgot about the impossibility of this, forgot everything except the feeling of being wanted by someone who'd seen me at my worst and stayed. A knock at the door broke us apart. Marco entered, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. Lorenzo's warmth vanished, replaced by cold calculation. What kind of problem? The Russo family wasn't working alone. They had backing from the Castellano family in New York. And the Morettis in Chicago. Marco's jaw was tight. They formed an alliance. They're coming for us. All of them. I watched Lorenzo's expression close off completely. When? Best intel says 72 hours. They're gathering forces now. Marco glanced at me, then back to Lorenzo. They want the girl too. Word got out about what she means to you. They think if they take her, you'll surrender. They're right, Lorenzo said quietly. What? Marco and I said it simultaneously. Lorenzo stood and walked to the window. Call everyone back to the estate. Every soldier, every associate. Fortify the mansion. This ends there. Boss, that's suicide. They'll have 3 times our numbers. I know. Lorenzo turned back to us. Which is why Aria won't be there. I'm not running, I said immediately. You're not running. You're surviving. He came back to my bedside. I have a safe house in Canada. New identity papers. Enough money to start over. You leave tonight. No. Aria, this isn't negotiable. You're right. It's not. I struggled to sit up, ignoring the pain. You saved me twice. You think I'm going to run away while you face an army? What kind of person does that make me? A living one, Lorenzo said harshly. They will torture you, rape you, cut you into pieces and make me watch. I won't let that happen. And I won't let you die alone. My voice cracked. You said this isn't about debt anymore. So let me make my own choice. Let me stand with you. You can't fight. You're not trained. No. But I can cook. I looked at Marco. How many men do you have? Maybe 80 if we call everyone in. And they'll have over 200. I turned back to Lorenzo. Scared men make mistakes. Confident, well-fed men fight better. Let me do what I do best. Let me take care of your soldiers before the battle. Lorenzo stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked me. He laughed. Short and sharp, but real. You want to cook a last meal for an army. I want to give them something to fight for, I corrected. Food is memory. It's comfort. It's home. Let me give your men a reason to believe they can win. Marco looked between us. Boss, she might have a point. Morale matters. Lorenzo ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. Your whole life is insane, I pointed out. What's one more crazy thing? He closed his eyes. When he opened them, I saw resignation and something that looked like pride. Fine, but you stay in the kitchen. You don't fight. At the first sign we're losing, Marco gets you out. Understood. I nodded. Say it, Lorenzo commanded. I'll stay safe. I promise. It was a lie. We both knew it. But he let it slide. The next 72 hours were chaos. Lorenzo discharged me from the hospital against the doctor's advice. We returned to the mansion, which had become an armed fortress. Men with automatic weapons patrolled the grounds. Barricades went up. Escape routes were planned. And I cooked. I cooked like my life depended on it. Because it did. And so did Lorenzo's. I made food that reminded these men of home. Pasta dishes their grandmothers made. Bread that smelled like childhood. Desserts that tasted like better times. Every meal was a message. You have something to fight for. You have something to live for. The men noticed. I heard them talking as they ate. Best meal I've had in years. Reminds me of my mama's cooking. If we survive this, I'm asking the boss if she can cook for us permanently. Lorenzo came into the kitchen on the final night. Tomorrow, the Alliance would attack. You should be resting, I said, not looking up from the sauce I was stirring. So should you. He came up behind me, his hands settling on my waist. Your ribs are still healing. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're in pain and pretending you're not. He turned me to face him. Why? Why do all this? I set down my spoon and looked up at him. You really don't know? Tell me anyway. Because I love you. The words came out simple. True. Undeniable. I love you, Lorenzo Salvatore. And tomorrow you might die. And I refuse to let you face death thinking no one cares if you live. His expression cracked. Aria, I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other a few months. I know you're a killer and a criminal and everything I should run from. I touched his face, tracing the scar on his jaw. But you're also the man who saved a terrified girl and checked on her for 12 years. You're the man who protected me when everyone said to kill me. You're the man who walked into a trap because you couldn't stand the thought of me suffering. You deserve better than me, he said roughly. Maybe. But I don't want better. I want you. Lorenzo kissed me hard, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the feel of me. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. If we survive tomorrow, he said, I'm leaving this life. All of it. The Mafia, the killing, everything. I'll turn evidence for immunity, and we'll disappear somewhere no one knows our names. And if we don't survive, then at least I'll die knowing someone loved me. His voice broke. That's more than I ever thought I'd have. We held each other in that kitchen, surrounded by the smell of food and the sound of men preparing for war. And I memorized every detail. The feel of his heartbeat against mine. The sound of his breathing. The way he held me like I was the only good thing in his dark world. Morning came too fast. They attacked at dawn. 3 families worth of soldiers, over 200 men, armed with everything from pistols to rocket launchers. They came in waves, trying to overwhelm us with numbers. Lorenzo's men fought like demons. But we were outnumbered. For every attacker we dropped, 2 more appeared. I stayed in the kitchen like I promised, but I watched through the windows. Saw men dying. Saw the barricades falling. We were losing. Marco burst into the kitchen, his arm bleeding. We need to go. Now. There's a tunnel in the wine cellar. It leads to the garage. Where's Lorenzo? Fighting. Buying us time. Marco grabbed my arm. He made me promise to get you out. Don't make me break that promise. I looked out the window one last time. Saw Lorenzo fighting 3 men at once, his movements precise and deadly. Then I saw someone behind him. Raising a gun. Taking aim. I didn't think. I ran. Burst through the kitchen door into chaos. Bullets flew past my head. Men screamed. Blood covered everything. Lorenzo. He turned at my scream. Saw me. His eyes went wide with horror. The gun behind him fired. I threw myself forward. Pain exploded in my chest. I looked down and saw blood blooming across my shirt. I'd been shot. Lorenzo's roar shook the mansion. He killed the man who shot me, then the next, then the next. He moved like a force of nature, unstoppable, until he reached me. He dropped to his knees and pulled me into his arms. No. No, no, no. Aria, stay with me. Had to, I gasped. Blood filled my mouth. Couldn't let him shoot you. You promised to stay safe. Tears streamed down his face. You promised. I lied. I tried to smile. I remember everything now. You gave me a second life once. Let me give you yours. Don't you dare die on me, he sobbed. Don't you dare. But the world was fading. Going gray. I heard sirens in the distance. Saw the sun rising behind Lorenzo's head. I love you, I whispered. Then everything went black. Chapter 7. I was drowning. Water filled my lungs. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't scream. Just sinking deeper and deeper into darkness. Then someone grabbed me. Pulled me up. Breathed air into my lungs. Don't you dare leave me, Lorenzo's voice echoed through the void. Fight, Aria. Fight. Light exploded above me. I swam toward it. My eyes opened. White ceiling. Beeping machines. The smell of antiseptic. A hospital room. And Lorenzo, asleep in the chair next to my bed, his hand wrapped around mine. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled like he'd been wearing them for days. I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry. I squeezed his hand instead. He woke instantly, his eyes flying open. When he saw me looking at him, he made a sound between a laugh and a sob. You're awake. You're actually awake. He stood and leaned over me, his hands cupping my face like I might disappear. 4 minutes. You were dead for 4 minutes. Your heart stopped and I thought. I'm okay, I croaked. You're not okay. You were shot in the chest. The bullet missed your heart by centimeters. His hands were shaking. The doctor said it was a miracle. That you shouldn't have survived. How long? A month. You've been in a coma for a month. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips. I never left. I couldn't. The thought of you waking up alone. The battle. What happened? Lorenzo sat on the edge of my bed, still holding my hands like a lifeline. The sirens you heard were police. FBI. I'd made a deal before the attack. Gave them everything. Names, locations, financial records. Evidence on everyone. He laughed bitterly. The Alliance walked into a trap. Most of them are in federal prison now. And you? Immunity. Full immunity in exchange for my testimony. He looked at me. I'm out, Aria. Completely out. The family is dissolved. The empire is gone. I'm just Lorenzo now. No more Salvatore legacy. Do you regret it? The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner. His thumb traced circles on my palm. You almost died because of my choices. Because of who I was. I won't make that mistake again. A nurse came in to check my vitals. When she saw I was awake, she smiled. Welcome back. You gave us quite a scare. She looked at Lorenzo. And you can finally go home and sleep in a real bed. I am home, he said, not taking his eyes off me. The nurse left, shaking her head fondly. Over the next few weeks, I healed. Slowly, painfully, but healing nonetheless. Lorenzo was there for every step. Every physical therapy session. Every nightmare. Every small victory. And we planned. A new life. Far away from the blood and violence. Somewhere we could just be two people trying to build something good. Greece, Lorenzo said one afternoon as I practiced walking the hospital hallways. I bought a house there. Small town on the coast. No one knows us. We can start over. What will we do? Whatever we want. He steadied me as I wobbled. I was thinking a restaurant. Small, intimate. You cook, I handle the business side. Nothing fancy. Just good food and a quiet life. It sounded like heaven. 3 months after I woke up, the doctors finally cleared me to leave. Lorenzo had already arranged everything. New passports under new names. Plane tickets. A life waiting for us across an ocean. The night before we left, I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts racing through my head. Lorenzo found me sitting on the balcony of the hotel room he'd rented, staring at the city lights. Second thoughts? He asked, sitting beside me. No. Just thinking about everything that happened. How my life completely changed because I smelled something wrong in a kitchen. Fate, Lorenzo said. Or luck. Or something bigger than both of us. He took my hand. I don't believe in much, Aria. But I believe we were meant to find each other. That scared girl and the man trying to convince himself he wasn't a monster. We saved each other. Do you think we'll be happy? After everything. I think happiness is something we build, not something we find. He turned to face me. And I want to build it with you. Every single day. For the rest of our lives. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold ring. I know we're supposed to do this differently. Fancy dinner, romantic setting, all of that. He took the ring out with shaking hands. But we've never been traditional. And I can't wait another day to ask you this. He slid off the chair and knelt on the balcony. Aria Bennett, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me? Will you let me spend every day proving I'm worthy of the love you've shown me? I was crying before he finished. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me. And I felt the last piece of my broken heart click into place. We flew to Greece the next day. The house was perfect. White walls, blue shutters, views of the ocean from every window. A kitchen that made me cry with joy. A garden where Lorenzo planned to grow vegetables. We opened the restaurant 6 months later. Aria's table, we called it. 10 tables, fresh ingredients from local markets, recipes that told stories. Word spread quickly. People came from all over to try the food made by the shy chef and her quiet husband. Because yes, we got married. Simple ceremony on the beach with just 2 witnesses we'd met in town. I wore a white sundress. Lorenzo wore linen and smiled more than I'd ever seen him smile. We were happy. Really, truly happy. 1 year after we arrived in Greece, I realized I'd missed my period. The pregnancy test in the bathroom of our small house showed 2 lines. I stared at it, my hand shaking. We'd never talked about children. Never planned for them. Was Lorenzo ready for this? Was I? I walked into the restaurant kitchen where Lorenzo was prepping for dinner service. He took one look at my face and set down his knife. What's wrong? I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air between us. Lorenzo's expression went through a dozen emotions in seconds. Shock, fear, wonder, then pure joy. He crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and lifted me into his arms, spinning me around. We're having a baby, he said, his voice full of awe. We're actually having a baby. Are you happy? I asked. I know we never planned. Happy. He set me down and cupped my face. Aria, you've given me everything. A reason to leave the darkness. A home. A purpose. And now a family? His eyes were wet. I didn't think people like me got this. Redemption. Love. A future. Our daughter was born on a spring morning. We named her Elena, after Lorenzo's mother. She had his dark eyes and my shy smile. And when Lorenzo held her for the first time, when I saw this former killer cradling new life with infinite gentleness, I knew we'd made it. We'd survived. 5 years later, Elena asked the question. We were sitting on the beach, watching the sunset. She was building sandcastles with the fierce determination only 5-year-olds possess. Lorenzo and I sat close together, his arm around my shoulders. Mama, Papa, how did you meet? Elena asked suddenly, looking up from her sandcastle. Lorenzo and I exchanged glances. We'd known this question would come eventually. Well, I started carefully. I was a chef. And your papa came to my restaurant. And I ordered something very dangerous, Lorenzo added. But your mama saved me. How? Elena's eyes were wide. She knocked it out of my hand, Lorenzo said, pulling me closer. And then she never let go. I laced my fingers through his. And Papa has been holding my hand ever since. Elena seemed satisfied with this answer. She went back to her sandcastle, humming to herself. Lorenzo kissed my temple. Think she'll ever know the whole truth? Maybe, I said. When she's older. When she can understand that people can change. That love can redeem even the darkest souls. You really believe that? Lorenzo asked. That I'm redeemed? I looked at him. At the man who'd saved me twice. Who'd walked away from everything for a chance at a real life. Who woke up every morning and chose to be good. I believe we're all works in progress, I said. And I believe you're the best man I know. The sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Elena laughed as a wave destroyed her sandcastle. Lorenzo squeezed my hand. We'd been through hell. Torture, betrayal, war, death. We'd both died and come back. But we'd survived. And here, on this beach, watching our daughter play, I realized that survival wasn't the same as living. We'd learned to do both. The shy chef and the Mafia boss. The girl who saved a stranger and the man who never forgot her. We'd found our happy ending in the most unlikely place. In each other. I love you, Lorenzo whispered. I love you too, I whispered back. Elena ran to us, covered in sand and joy. Come play with me. We stood, brushing off sand, and followed our daughter back to her castle. And as Lorenzo lifted Elena onto his shoulders and she shrieked with laughter, I took a mental picture of this moment. This was what we'd fought for. This was what we'd died for. This second chance at life. This beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary happiness. And it was worth every scar. Thanks for sticking with this story all the way to the end. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate you subscribe. I've got more stories coming soon. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Did you see that twist coming? What was your favorite part? Anyway, thanks for listening. See you in the next one.